What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee. This is exciting today because this is an occupation I've never heard of.
Okay, right on.
But I think after reading this book, we can see why something like this is so important. Darnell Lamont Walker is here, and you are a death doula.
A death doula, yeah, right on.
Now, as soon as I say that to somebody, they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
So if you have to explain to people listening what a death doula is, what would you say?
Yeah, so first I just say, I'm the person who helps people die. So that really pretty much shocks the system. But then I say, I'm there to support the person and the family at the end of life and throughout the transition, throughout the grief, at the core of it. That's what it is.
And you have a book out now called Never Can Say Goodbye, The Life of a Death Doula and the Art of a Peaceful End. And, it's interesting to me because death is something that's inevitable for everybody, right? There are some things in life that we know we got to do. They say pay taxes.
And die.
And die.
Yep.
And those are two things that have to happen. And this is something that you were a death doula before you even knew what it was called.
I think so many of us were. I learned from my grandmother who'd been doing this work for decades. She had never heard the term. She died before anyone used it that I knew. But back then it was just, this is what we do for family. This is what we do for friends. We take care of each other. We come from a long lineage of people who have taken care of each other. And that's essentially that's what I do now. I don't do anything different than I did before I heard the term. Watching my mom take care of a cousin who came home to die of AIDS, my grandmother do the same on the other side of the family. That's the work too, holding someone's hand, and sometimes not even through death loss, but just through grief of losing a job, of losing a relationship. It's all of that. So all that's the work. In the book, there's one part where you talk about your grandmother who was really important in your life. Absolutely.
And you say that she told you, she went on to tell me that when hamburgers with gravy and country fried potatoes lost their flavor, and when she could no longer play cards with the folks she'd sit around her living room table with almost daily, slapping down cards and coins while accusing each other of cheating, she'd be ready to go before the old folks home gets me, she said.
Yeah, and those conversations were so important to me because it kind of, I think we all need to have that threshold where it's like, when I can no longer do this, this is when I want to leave. And, my wish for everyone is that we're able to leave when we're ready to leave, but unfortunately that's not true.
Right.
But because I knew that about my grandmother when she was in hospice and things weren't looking good, she had stopped eating, she wasn't responsive, I knew she was ready to go. And sometimes people need that permission to go.
Right.
And so I'm thankful for those conversations because I knew that those things were no longer possible. And I had to be the one, I was the last person to see her in there. And I had to be the one to say, listen, and I told her, if I said, today looks like a really good day to die. There's no one left to come see you. You've done an amazing job. If you want to die today, you should do it. And I know you don't want to do it while I'm here. So I'm going to play a song. I played Coldplay's Fix You. And I played it, and then I left. And 15 minutes, I drove to my dad's house, walked in, the phone rang, and I knew who it was. It was the hospice saying she died.
Is that also somewhat being an intuitive, you think?
I think so. Like, having seen it so many times before, I think when people are, people know when they're going to go, in many cases, or at least the body knows how to die. And so watching what she was going through, she wasn't eating. Before she stopped talking, she talked about how her mother would come, and her mother died many years ago. And a lot of times I see that with a lot of clients where a spirit may come into the room and they're talking to them, and so all of these things adding up, it's like, oh, she's waiting for something, and maybe today would be the time to let go. So it's kind of intuitive and just kind of, I want you to stop suffering too. So it's selfless in a way, because I love my grandmothers are global treasures. We all love our grandmothers, and I didn't want her to go, but I knew she needed to.
I always look at it too when it comes to grandparents and even your parents. You always want them to go before you do, because I couldn't imagine the pain that a parent would feel or a grandparent would feel if you go before them because of the order of how things should happen.
No, absolutely. Like we all, none of us want to lose our parents, those loving, especially when they're loving and they're supportive and they've been there our whole life. But also knowing the pain they would go through. And we've seen mothers lose their children. We've seen it, and we see it too often. That's the grief we constantly live in, especially as Black folks. And we know that pain. So let you go. You go if you
Right.
have to. And because I have a son now, he's 21. I could not imagine.
Could you? Yeah.
Could not imagine.
And he would never want you to have to
No.
go through something like that. Another thing you talk about is how Black men, when it comes to a death doula, usually somebody will refer
Yeah.
you because it's not something they seek out necessarily.
It's sad to see. Yeah, it's always a family member, always someone who calls me for them. Because what I found, and we've heard it so many times, I got to be the rock of the family. I have to be the strong one, trying to run from those emotions, all the things that Black men avoid in life. Like my dad even will not talk about death, will
Right.
not talk about it. And so when I get called in, the first thing I have to do is try to create a space where they can feel safe enough to be able to express these things. And it doesn't take long. Sometimes it just takes a hug or the touch that they haven't received because they've pretended to be this strong person for so long. But in that, they don't get to grieve themselves.
Right.
You know, so they die and they never got the chance to cry, never got the chance to be held, never got the chance to be touched the way they needed to be touched. And so a lot of my work is trying to fix that.
You know, you have some extraordinary stories in this book of situations that have happened. And one of the stories that you talk about is Leon. And you talk about going to Burning Man, which I commend you for that already. 'Cause
Yeah. Have you been?
No.
Oh, it's not for you?
I don't know if I want to. Well,
Okay.
yeah.
I think it's for everybody. I was just going to say, I think it's for
Talk
everybody.
To me, all right. Before,
Okay.
I want to hear about Burning. What for
So
people
Burning-
listening,
yeah.
Burning Man? Why is that something that you feel like?
I think it's for everybody. For me, it's like this. It's this chance that we create this society that's just perfect. Money doesn't exist. It's just love. It's bartering. People feed you. You know, it's like you walk through the desert at night and somebody's like, "Hey, do you need a hug?" Absolutely, I do. And I have this little bracelet I love to give you. Do you need a shirt? I have this too. And it's like an amazing time. It's art. It's music. It's DJs from night till the break of dawn. And if you want to sleep all day, or if you want to go out during the day and look at the art and just connect with the people, it's all of that. And I have a great camp. And yes, that is where I met Leon, who, man, he's a kid in his 20s. He came over, and it was, you probably heard about the mud year. The year it rained and poured down, and everyone was trying to escape, but we couldn't. We were stuck there for a few days. Still
Doesn't
a great
make
time.
me want to go. Yeah.
Still a great time. I think Chris Rock got a helicopter out of there. But he came over.
Like, is there an extra seat?
Is there
Please?
something?
Yeah.
And the toilets were backed up. So I'm not selling it to you, but yeah. So he comes over, and he's one of those guys who he's a lot of fun. You know, we'd all been drinking. We're having a good time in the desert. And me and him are going back and forth with like fun, like he was an asshole kind of,
Yeah.
but a fun one, you
Like
know,
my dad.
like my best friend. I know these people, you know what I
Right.
mean. So we having a good time, and then I had to go to a Whitney Houston party, me and some friends. So we were like, oh yeah, I'll talk to you later. But right before I left, this guy came up with his bike. We couldn't ride; it was mud, and Leon helped the guy change out of these wet clothes that he was in. And I just thought, like, after all this assholeness jokes and whatnot, I thought that was such a beautiful moment. And so I just snapped a photo, and the light was hitting just right, and I snapped a photo. And we walked and came back, and everyone at the camp was, you know, pretty down about something. And I'm thinking, you know, what happened? And they're like, oh, well, someone died here. Not a part of our camp, but just died right over here. And I'm going through, and I show up in a lot of places where I'm not a death doula in this space, but I turn into that. And so I find myself going to, you know, campmates and consoling them and talking to them and figuring out what happened. And one says, oh, you know the guy. You were talking to him right before you left, the young guy. And I'm like, no. And instantly I thought, man, when will his parents get this news? When will his family hear about this? We're stuck out here. Is the body
phones
gone?
aren't working.
It's like all of that, you know.
Yeah.
And back to the parent in me, it's what would I want to know about my kids' last moments? And hadn't thought about the photo. I got to bed that night, and I'm going through my phone, and I'm thinking, oh, I think I have the last picture of this guy. And immediately when I got back to civilization, it was, I have to find his people. They created a GoFundMe is how I found a cousin of his who led me to Facebook, that led me to his mom. And I said, if this was my child, this is what I would want to know. And I reached out to her, and it was just this, for hours, going back and forth, just of, thank you so much. And it's sometimes it's what we need to hear. It's the closure we need sometimes, because we don't know someone's last moments, and if someone was there for those, it can be shared, and I think it should be. And I'm so grateful that we were able to do that for her and her family.
Right, and share that picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also nice to know, because I think when somebody dies and they're alone and nobody knows what those last, moments were like, and I know they share with you, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I need a minute.
Oh, take your time, please.
So my brother was by himself. He had an aneurysm, and it was so sudden. And I'm like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Like, was he suffering for a long time? Was he laying there?
Yeah.
And so it was nice that a lot of people were sending me messages about, just how amazing he was. Even people I never met, like the woman where he parked his car, was like, oh, it's the first of the month. He would always bring me cake, and he didn't come. And I had no idea what happened. And, so I was missing that. And then people in the neighborhood, his landlord, like everybody was just showing up and talking about how great he was. One of his neighbors was telling me she sent me an email about how when she moved in the building, and she was really nervous to move to New York, and how helpful my brother was in that process. And she had like a date with somebody she met on an app, and he went with her and sat at the bar while she had the date just to make sure she was okay. And then when it was over, he made sure she got back, just really nice things that he never told me about, but I got to hear those stories from other people, and it did really help me a lot.
I love that so much. Can we say your brother's name?
Brian,
right on. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing that. I talk so much about how everyone has to show up for the funeral, right? And that, it doesn't have to be the actual funeral, but we need those stories.
Yeah.
None of us, none of us know someone completely.
Right.
That reduces a life so much to say, oh, I know everything about them. No, we don't. And so it's good to know that he brought that lady a cake, at the beginning, to sit on a date with this woman. It's like, oh, he was that too. And so we need that, and it's so important. Thanks for sharing that about him. Yeah.
And even like with my parents, my brother is a really thoughtful person, and so he's always doing stuff for them. And I'm like, dang, I can't compete with like the little things that he would do, like showing up at my mom's job and bringing her like, some special bread that she likes. I don't even know what that bread is. I had to tell my mom. I was like, listen, just get ready for a downgrade.
Yeah. Like I bring some wonder over to
it's not gonna happen.
Some Hawaiian rolls.
I'll send you some cupcakes, whatever it is I need to do. But
yeah.
I also it was when I was reading this book, because I actually was reading it on the train, and I was like, I got to put it down.
Okay, yeah.
Because it was hard, because I was like, I'm reading all these different stories, and I'm imagining the pain that people feel when they're going through circumstances. Like you had a friend who lost his girlfriend, and when that happens and it's so sudden, and it's like she's not answering the phone, and you don't think anything of it, and then that's always like the worst case scenario. Of something like that happen. But I also think it matters how it happens, because I remember when we went to my brother's apartment and we were waiting for the police to come, and they were like, it's still an open investigation until they can get the cause of death. That was something that I hadn't even thought of. I was like, did somebody break in here and kill? Because you get all kinds
and then
of
you have to think about that now, right?
And I was like, that would have been awful, because I would hate for it to have happened that way.
Yeah.
And I think about how much worse it is when people die these tragic deaths, in that way.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with so many questions. It leaves us with so many things that we just may not ever know.
Right.
And that's hard. But I do love, and I believe you spoke about it on your show, following your brother's death, of how important it is to plan. And having these conversations now, because waiting, we all know what happens when we wait. Families have fallen apart. We're left with, before we can get to the grieving, before we can get to our real emotions and be held and be in community with people, we have to go through the logistics of, well, let me go back to the police station. I got to talk to the funeral home, and now I got to get this. And especially if we don't have much help, especially if we haven't already built that community, and it's just us, which sounds like a lot of that is yours, what you were going through, your responsibility. And so, stressing the importance of talking to whoever our loved ones are. And sometimes that's not family. I tell these things to all my friends. Mm-hmm. My friends probably know how I want to die more than my family know how I want to die, because we have to do it now. And because we don't know. I get on social media every day and someone, on my way here, I get on there and I see that someone I knew died.
Right.
And, and I'm like, oh, and
it literally like all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it could be any of us on the way to work. And we don't know.
How do you want to die?
I was going to ask you that first, but for me, I want the deathbed. I want to be there, surrounded by people I love, coming in one at a time. I got music lined up. I have a playlist. Mm-hmm. I have the foods. When my granddad was dying, I was there for him, and a big part of what we did was finding all those foods he loved as a kid. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you remember those pecan pinwheels? You remember, I used to eat crabs, and I used to do this. And I'm like, I can find it. Somebody has it. And I'd go out to these little corner stores and bring them back, and we would sit there and eat snacks. I want that. I want to have those final moments where people can say or ask me anything they want to ask, and we're all just honest. Mm-hmm. I think that's important. I know so many people want it to be instant or in their sleep. I think that's beautiful too. I think death can be a beautiful thing, but I want that dramatic ending that we see on TV and see in movies and read in books.
Yeah.
How about
I mean, I think I would like to know it's coming so that I could be as prepared as possible, and everybody else can too. Mm-hmm. I always think about what I want my funeral to be like, though.
Okay, what's that?
Because I definitely would like to have like a DJ, open bar, I want it to be fun.
Right. I always ask people, what song do you want played at that moment? At the moment of death?
It's interesting because I did a playlist for my brother's funeral.
Okay.
And people were appreciative of it, but sometimes when them slower songs came on, it was really depressing. I was like, maybe I should have made it a little more upbeat, because it feels like it's supposed to be wrong to be doing that, even though I know we have repasts and things like that. Yeah. So I think now that I have to look back in retrospect, I probably want it to be a little more upbeat, than I had it.
Right on. No, that's fair.
And then I think the drinks were good. My aunt told me, she said, this is the best funeral I've ever been to. Well, the wake. She said the wake, which I thought was interesting, but I know my brother would like that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Like, we know people. We know our people and what they want, and it doesn't have to be that sad thing.
Because we think about traditionally, everybody's crying, everybody's sad, but this in particular didn't feel as heavy. Mm-hmm. It felt like people were happy to see each other.
Oh, absolutely.
It had its moments, but it also was a lot of chatter, and a lot of people came out, and I think that was nice too, to see all different kinds of people, whether it was for my parents, my family, it was for me, and then it was for my brother also. Yeah. And I think all my really good friends were also friends with my brother.
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
So people were like flying in, just seeing that. And I also understood when people couldn't make it, because I'm not the type of person to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't come.
Same.
I was fine with that.
Same.
And so I just think it's just a time that I also wanted to get past.
No, absolutely. And I love what you said about just, traditionally we sit in the sadness, right? Because a lot of times we feel guilty for, and I think it's important to let people know that so often we feel guilty for being happy. We feel guilty for the joy that we're experiencing, and we shouldn't. Like, that's important. We feel that. That's real, and we know the person your brother would have appreciated that, and you know that. So it's good to laugh and not sit in that funk, I got wine.
I thought about tequila. I was like, that might be too much.
Oh, you trying to fight it?
Another thing, there's a story you tell early on in the book, and it is about Larry.
Oh, yeah.
And Maurice.
I think that's my favorite story, more so because it's about the loneliness and people not being able to one, love who they want to love, but also express that love. And it's I see it so often, and we were raised in generations, but we were raised by generations that had these special friends, and and all that. And to see this man sitting in the back of this funeral for a man that he couldn't grieve, and he would have to go home alone and go through this by himself when everyone else there had someone to hold them, to get them through. That was gonna be a painful experience. And just to go through that story quickly for those who haven't read the book or may want to get it, but I went to a funeral as a photographer and ended up being a death doula in a way to a man who was the partner of the man who died. Mm-hmm. And they were in there. The man who died was in his 80s for sure, and Larry may have been 10 years younger.
Right. And people didn't know.
And people didn't know.
But
and
you caught on. You were like, wait a minute.
Because even in the story she's telling at the mic during the eulogy, she's like, I'm just thankful for Larry for helping him take care of this place as the groundskeeper for the and I'm sitting there looking at Larry who's bawling in the back like, oh no, it's more. It's more than that.
To this.
And even if I wasn't 100% sure, but it was pretty obvious, and so I said I need to stay behind and just talk to him and at least offer him a hug in the end. And it's exactly what he needed, and I'm glad I could do that for him. But so many of us, I just got a call 2 weeks ago now from a friend whose sister was with her boyfriend when he died, and she's like, "What can I do to be there?" And I'm giving her ideas and what I do, and I'm like, well, maybe your sister should, helping with the funeral, that helps with closure, and doing this and talking with the family and building community. And she says no one knew about their relationship. He was separated from his wife, and I'm like, oh. Ooh, and yeah. So now this man she was with for 3 years, she has to hide. She can't go to the funeral. Wow. She can't, none of the things that we are usually able to do. And it's what should she do? And I was like, just go there and hold her. Go there and be present. Go feed her. Put lotion on her feet, whatever that is. But it's about being present. And I think if we are witnesses to people's lives and we know people, you knew your brother, and if we watch people, we know what they need, It's
interesting, a story like that, because it makes me think of someone had told me a story about their father passing. And their father had a double life, mm-hmm. and he had a whole nother woman that he was involved with, which they didn't find out until he was dying. Okay. And he had cancer while he was in the hospital. He actually asked his wife, can this other woman come and see me before I die, because I love her too? Yeah. His wife said no, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she also had children, not by him, who were very affected by that. Yeah. And that's a really interesting situation and difficult one to navigate.
It's hard. It's hard to navigate, and it's what I think. It's up to whoever's in that situation. I think we have to honor the person who's at the end of their life. I truly believe that, in the work I do is I'm here to honor the person who is actively dying, or the person who called me in. And in that case, she should have called that woman and had her there, and so she could have closure too, because now she won't get, that. And he loved her also.
One thing that the wife also said was the fact that she found this out helped her be able to move on after he died, because she would have felt really guilty moving on, but because she knew while he was alive, because it was a decades-long deception. Yeah, yeah. And so that's what was really hard. Yeah. And I think as the wife, she felt like you knew he was married. You knew you were a secret all this time. Mm-hmm. How Why dare now? You? Yeah. Why now?
It's real. It's real.
I mean, to me, and we see this all the time, right? Somebody dies, and then it comes out that they had this going on, they had that going on also, and it's such a delicate time for these secrets to be revealed.
Oh, absolutely. There's even this one obituary I share often. This man died, I can't tell you, Pennsylvania, Ohio, but there are two obituaries right next to each other. One that the wife put in and one that the girlfriend put in. Whoa. And it's same photo.
Oh my
same
gosh.
photo. And it reads like, oh, he leaves behind his loving wife and his kids and so and so, and then the other is like he leaves behind his special friend, and so, it's like okay.
But that's why another reason why getting your affairs in order is important, because if you have this double life that you live and you want to make sure both people are taken care of, it won't happen.
Yeah.
Unless. You
have to talk about
doing that anyway. But
should be. I had not to take up much more time, but I had a brother who died doing something he absolutely had no business doing with his fiance's sister.
Whoa. Ooh,
died.
Baby.
And we were all, and he didn't die right away. He was in a coma. So I get to the hospital, and the sisters, the fiance's there, and she's telling me this story, and I'm like, oh. Okay, she has one version, but I know the honest version, as did everyone else. And it's like you don't want to die that way. But also, you want to plan. We are whatever that is, and we are seemingly. I hope everyone, me and you, and everyone here has years left, but we don't know. So why aren't we talking about it with the people we love now? Yeah.
In this book, you also say. Death for many Black folks is a subject often left on the table untouched. There's not even so much as a whisper about it. I've been a conscious witness to this avoidance since I was 9 years old, and maybe long before that. After more than 3 decades, it no longer baffles me, but I would love to see that change. So what are the changes that you are seeing, and how can we help make that change?
Oh, the changes that are happening are beautiful. I mean, even being here now, this wasn't happening 10 years ago. People weren't talking about death. What I was seeing then was just, I come from a big family, but it was just me and my grandmother on my dad's side that would talk about it, and me and my mom on my mom's side that would talk about it, even though people were dying constantly. Now we're having these conversations. We're at brunch talking about, how do you want to die? There are games now, card decks like the Death Deck, where people can go and just sit around and play fun games, asking questions about how do you want this to happen for you. Even therapy, like we are talking, sharing recommendations for therapy at brunch. So, it's like these are real conversations because we want to be different. We are so much more open, and I want us to, and we're so much more vulnerable than generations before us. And so, I'm just happy to be a part of the group of folks who are creating these conversations. Like even my dad, like I said, my dad does not want to talk about death ever. I find ways to sneak him into the conversation. He had a friend, his best friend was in hospice with pancreatic cancer. And I was like, are you going to see him? He's like, I can't go up there. I was like, this is your best friend.
Right.
What do you want people to do when you are in this situation?
Yeah.
And but so many people thought, just talking about death will bring it on. And so, bringing people into these conversations and saying, listen, planning is love. The more we talk about this, the more we plan it, the more we can actually get to the holding each other and the community building. But we have to be able to talk about it. There are families now putting their wills together, their advance directives, because they saw what happened when their mother and father died. And it's like, we fell apart. I haven't seen cousins in years. I did I did my launch for this book at my hometown. A few family members showed up because most of them don't want to talk about this, have this conversation. And so it's, let's just do it really fast. Let's spend the day talking about it, planning it out, and then we can get to the rest of our life. If we, I'm a person who's fortunate enough to, I say fortunate enough, but I was diagnosed with the blood clotting disorder that almost killed me when I was 22. And so now I take a pill every day for it. But every time I take that pill, I also have to realize that I'm going to die one day. And with that thought comes, well, I need to do a lot of living before that.
Right.
As long as I've taken this pill, that means I still have life. Cool. Let me do a lot of living today. While I still have it. And so that's where we're going. It's people who are open to facing that mortality and realizing that it's helping shape how they live. Yeah.
And, I want to say another thing that's important is supporting people who are dealing with a loss close to them, because a lot of us don't know how to do that too.
Yeah.
And that's how really you got started in this business.
Yeah, and
because it is a business too.
It's
So for somebody that's listening and they're like, okay, like my friend Chella, her mother just passed, and the funeral is actually this weekend. And And I told her, I said, what do you need? And I know you've said, like, a lot of times people don't know what they need until, there's so much going on. They're not even sure where to start. What are some things you would tell people that they can do to be supportive in that situation?
Oh, absolutely. It's being present. Like, being present is the most important thing. Showing up, knowing that you're not there to fix anything. There's no right thing to say, wrong thing to say. I'm here. And we all want to be loved, but we all want to be witnessed also. And so I'm here for you. If we don't even talk, I will sit on the other end of the couch. That's fine. But it's also holding a hand, grabbing the drink. My friend Michelle, I talk about her in the book, her mother Delphine died. We all went to school together, and so a bunch of us got together and just bought gift cards for restaurants because we were like, she's probably not eating the way she should be. We got her a spa day, all of that. That's doing the work too. But really just showing up saying, I don't know how to fix this either, but if you want me to fall apart with you, when my fraternity brother's girlfriend died, I didn't even tell him I was coming to St. Louis. I showed up at the door with a bottle of rum and was like, listen, I don't know why I'm here, but we got a week. And
shout out to that Appleton rum.
The Appleton rum. You hear me? So, and it was like, and he's like, oh, okay. And it was us in an apartment drinking rum, just falling apart because this is all we can do right now. But it's all of that. It's all of that. But knowing that you don't have to go and figure out, am I going to say the wrong or right thing? It's just showing up.
Yeah.
It's just showing up.
I just think about, like, when for me, like with my brother, I announced what happened because I knew the first thing that happens is everybody calls you and they're like, what happened? And I was like, I don't want to say what happened
over and over
5,000 times, here's what happened. So I made sure that I said it one time so everybody knew what it was. Yeah. And I think depending on what happens, sometimes there is shame for people around how, people, like, they'll feel like, oh, he was doing this and, he overdosed, he this, he that. Sometimes people are like, look at that and it's hard for them to talk about it in that way too.
It is. But we have to realize, like, people live complex lives and there is no shame in that. We've all done it, but some of us have hit it, so much better than the others. But I think it's worth telling a person's whole life. I remember when Maya Angelou died and people were honoring her, but they're saying, when she was when she was doing sex work for this, and when she was a kid she did this, and people were offended. They were like, why would you say that about Dr. Maya Angelou? It's like, she wrote about it. She's proud of the life that she came from. This happened. And so because people are ashamed of it, we get these bad biopics because it's like, well, that's not the full story. How did Tina Turner end up with 4 kids at the end of the movie, but we only see 3 in the middle? And so it's like, oh, they didn't want to talk about the kid she had first, and so we get these stories, but we have to tell the full story. We deserve that, and like I tell people all the time, when I die, come to my funeral, whatever stories you have of me, you could say right in the mic as loud as you want, post it, because people deserve to be full. They deserve to be complete. We have, like, I read bad obituaries and they're, paragraph long, and it's like there was more to this person's life. Even the obituary I wrote in the book for a friend, her mom wasn't really there for her much growing up. She was raised by a grandmother. Her mom had a drug addiction. And so when it came time to write her obituary, she was like, I want to tell the truth about all of it. She's like, the hard stuff, the good stuff. She said, because that makes a full story for my mom, and she deserves to be a full person now when she couldn't be in life. And so I really want... So a lot of the work I do as a death doula, I do come in and I help people transition and I help families through the grief. But because I'm a writer, professionally I'm a writer, my goal is to help people tell their story. And so I come in and I ask questions about their childhood. I ask questions about when they grew up. What are your most memorable moments? Or what do you want to leave behind for your children or for the people who are left here? And they are so open at the end. And so many families have said, have asked their kids or told their kids, ask me everything you want to know. I will be very honest with you. And I urge people to do that. Even if they don't tell you to ask them everything,
right.
Ask them anyway. If they don't answer, sometimes they won't, but they might. And then you have more of your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister than you had before.
What about your experience with your spiritual journeys and doing things like?
Let's get into it.
I want to
No,
talk
right
about
on.
that. It's something I haven't really experienced.
No, absolutely.
So kind of delve into that for me.
So like ayahuasca, mushrooms, it's been every journey's been incredible. I'll say with ayahuasca especially, the first time I did it, I felt so cared for, one, by the community I was with, the shaman I was with, but also just this spiritual feeling of this is what love feels like. And I go in with my intention of, I want to know what true love feels like, and I want to know why I'm not where I feel like I should be in this life. And my mom shows up first, and she's like, give me a hug. And she's not really there, but I see her, and I hug her, and I just break down in tears, crying. And it's like, this is what real love is. It's a mother's hug. And I thought, what about the people who don't have their mother or not close to their mother? Where do they get it? And then suddenly my cousin, who came home to die in 94, showed up. Hadn't thought about him in decades at that point. And he says, I never got the chance to thank you for being one of the only two people I felt loved me in the end. And it was just this moment of, oh my God, and then after that, the many times I've done mushrooms or ayahuasca, it's been about, like, there's always a theme of grief. There's always a theme of, living things can still be supported by dead things. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about family who've died, your brother. It's like, yes, but you have these stories that can go on, and you will do great things because of what you've heard about him. And so that's still that support from people who've passed before. I've seen countless black men have come back to me and said, I just want to cry because I never got the chance to experience, I never got the chance to grieve myself in the former life. Can I just use you to cry? And that's the last thing I need to do in this earthly realm. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah. And so there was a night where I sat on the floor and just bawled for hours because black men just never got the chance to cry. And having those experiences have really come into my work, but also my life. I make sure that my son, me, anyone, my friends, whether they want to talk about it or not, we're going to have these conversations, even if it's for a couple of minutes, even if it's for a second, because I don't want you to end up like that.
Right.
And so the plant medicines have really helped me pull those things out.
You've even been able to contact people that if somebody asks you, like, can you talk to Rob for me? And you're able to.
Absolutely. My friend Sheena, she asked me to contact, and she's a medium. I very reluctant on using that title, but she's a medium, and she said, he won't come to me. Could you see it? At that point, I had never asked anyone to come. They've just come. And I said, all right, I'll do it. And so that night, all the black men came is when he came, and he said, tell Sheena I'm okay. I'm in a really good place. I just want to cry. And I mean, I was stretched out on the floor, bawling. And I talked to her the next day, and she says, did you see him? And I said, he came. She said, he's very dramatic. Was he like all over the floor crying? I was like, yes! She said, that's John. And I'm like, okay. I'm glad he had his chance. But yeah, that's kind of, and looking back, like I've had those experiences since I was a kid. I remember being a kid seeing these spirits, and now it's so heavy, and I'm so grateful to be able to share those messages and to be able to use them. I think it's so much wisdom in that, and to be able to use them and pass that forward to anyone who needs to hear that.
Mm-hmm. How long have Death Doula, like when you found out about it, how long has this been something that's been like I've never heard of it before this?
Yeah, I heard about it in 2015. I couldn't tell you how long people have been using that term before that. I heard about it from a hospice nurse who said, oh, you're a death doula. I'm like, okay. But
okay, yeah.
Before that, I'm like, and until probably 2020, honestly, so those 5 years, I had never heard it again. And it wasn't until 2020 that I heard of like Alua Author, who was doing amazing work as a death doula, black woman death doula, who created Going with Grace. But that was 5 years between that, and so now it's becoming more and more in the public language. thankfully, but still.
And you
it's
said
just
2020,
love.
that was the pandemic.
That was the pandemic, yeah.
What was work like during that time?
It was heavy because for me, I was in New York. I was living in New York then, up in the Bronx. And, New York, during the pandemic, we were seeing trucks go up the street with bodies. Worldwide, we're watching videos of families that were separated by a glass wall at a nursing home. And it was like, what can we do? I had no clients at the time because we were all so separated. But I was with friends. I was with family, building community. We were taking care of each other uptown, and that's part of that work. It was like, okay, well, if we die, what do you want? My friend, we were getting COVID, and I think I had it twice. I had a friend who had it, and it was like, okay, if this is it, how do you want this to happen? And it's make sure you call. Here are the numbers you need to call. So we're all putting numbers in our phone. We're all sharing information. We're all sharing our locations. Because that's what needed to happen. And it's no different now. That's what still needs to happen.
Yeah.
We still have to do that.
During that time, doing those virtual funerals was awful. My grandmother and my uncle, I just was on the Zoom watching
funerals.
It's awful.
And it's so disconnecting when you need someone, like, I just need a hug. I want to hug somebody that's there. I want to see that body up close, but it just wasn't possible. And so now we need everything everything we did then, we need to do now. Without that threat, because we all wait till the threat happens. We all wait until it's too late to do it, and we don't have to.
Well, Darnell, thank you so much for coming through today. Never can say goodbye. The life of a death doula and the art of a peaceful end. Get your box of tissues next to you when you're reading this. But I was on the train. I was like, whoo. I know people were like, is she okay? But, it is like, things that people will relate to, but I also feel like there's very useful information here. It's something that we all need to be, I guess, I don't know if I would say prepared for.
Yeah, prepared for it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you touch on that. With talking about your brother again. It's important, that preparation. And I'm grateful that you did that to let the people know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Darnell Lamont Walker, how can people reach you?
I'm everywhere. Darnell Lamont Walker. Hello, Darnell. Instagram. Just type my name. I think I'm the only Darnell Lamont. It's a lot of Darnell Walkers. I'm the only one that used Lamont. So find me anywhere. Contact me. I am reachable. I love talking to people about this conversation, about death, and very open to these conversations. So
all right.
please
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.